Hey, welcome everyone. Can you hear me now? Hello? Can you hear me now? So I'll start again. I think the mic was muted. The mic was muted. So I'm gonna start again. So welcome everyone. This is the first Angular Vietnam in English, and this is the first time I'm streaming in English by myself. So I'm gonna speak English for a little bit, and then I'm gonna speak Vietnamese. I might jump back and forth. So excuse me for that. I'm gonna introduce a little bit in Vietnam. I'm gonna start again. I'm gonna introduce a little bit in Vietnam, in Vietnamese, so people understand the rules, because this is the first time again. Xin chào các bạn. Xin lỗi nha, có một số vấn đề kỹ thuật là cái mic của mình bị mute, mất và 1 phút hả? một vài phút không sao cả. Thì mình vừa giải thích đó là đây là cái stream lần đầu tiên mình nói bằng tiếng Anh, cho nên là có cái gì đó mà các bạn không hiểu được hoặc là chưa hiểu được thì các bạn cứ post ở trong comment bằng tiếng Việt, thì mình sẽ giải thích lại, hoặc là mình sẽ viết cái chữ đó ra cho các bạn hiểu là mình đang nói về cái vấn đề gì. Mình nói nhanh hay là nói chậm thì các bạn cứ báo cho mình biết là mình nói nhanh hay nói chậm. Thì thực sự là cái mục đích là tụi mình muốn đem những cái mà discussion mà chúng ta nói về trong những cái stream này cho cái audience lớn hơn, chứ không phải chỉ riêng vì về developer Việt Nam không. Thì vậy nha, bây giờ mình sẽ quay lại nói tiếng Anh. Alright, so I was just explaining to the Vietnamese audience that if they have any words that they don't understand or I speak too fast, feel free to stop me. So today on the agenda, we have authentication, we have authorization, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about TNC Scully. If anyone doesn't know, TNC Scully is a repo of my personal blog that was written in Scully, which is the static site generator for Angular. And then we're going to talk about miscellaneous stuff. I'll answer common questions, whatever you guys have. And if nobody has anything, I'm just going to stop stream and end early. All right. And this is Angular Vietnam, so authentication, authorization is all in Angular. How I do it, how I experience it doesn't mean that it is the best practice. So feel free to stop me, ask questions, or we can discuss. Okay, so let's start off with authentication. So a lot of people know authentication it always deals with local storage or token. I'm talking specifically about JWT or JSON Web Token based authentication. And to explain it a little bit more, authentication is to verify, to verify who they are, or right, to verify who they are. Then authorization is to verify what they can do. So authentication is login stuff, and then authorization is permission stuff. So it's two different things. You might be authenticated, but you might not be authorized. That's the two main concept. So first, about JWT, I've read a lot of blogs and a lot of strategies about how to handle token on the front end. Like a lot of questions pop up, like, oh, should I store the token in the local storage, or should I store the token in the cookies? What's more secure? What should I save? What data should I save on the token? It's hard. Like, security is hard. I'm no expert in security. Anyway, so then I stumbled upon this guy. This is the ultimate guide to handle JWTs on front end. Don't care about the GraphQL part. You can apply this to REST API as well. And this is the best blog ever that you're gonna read on JWTs. I'm gonna link the URL in the chat. So basically, in this guide, they would talk about the strategy of having an access token and a refresh token. The access token, let me scroll down a little bit. Refresh token. There we go. So the access token is the token that you usually use. That's your familiar token to give to a client to have access to your data. That's the access token. That's the, if you're familiar with the backend, you will have the authenticate method to verify that token from the authorization header, like the authorization bearer header. So to verify that, grab the information from that token, and then grab the user from the database in the database based on the information on that token. So that's the access token. So what about the refresh token? So refresh token is a token to refresh the access token. So because the access token has access to your data, so it needs to be secured and it cannot be leaked. So the access token has a very short lived. It can be like it's anywhere from 5 minutes to 15 minutes to an hour. It depends on the requirement. It depends on your applications. And then the refresh token might live like a week, a whole day. It depends. Again, it depends. The duration of these tokens depends. I'm going to talk about the concept first, then I'm going to show the code. It's the same thing with authorization. So for the access token, and then now people ask, where do we save these tokens? So the access tokens, we do not save the access token. We save the refresh token, or we save the refresh token in cookie. So it's a little bit hard to visualize. So this is a quick visual demo. So when a user log in, what we do is we return the refresh token. So we return the refresh token, and we as the header, as the cookie header, so that the browser will save this refresh token in the header, in the cookie. We also return an access token and an access token expired. So when you log in, you will have these two tokens and the expiry of the access token. Then we store the access token in memory only. What do I mean by in memory? In memory mean that you assign it to a variable called access token equals Jwt token. That's basically it. And this access token live in memory. So when you refresh, it's gone. When you refresh the page, it's gone. That's when the refresh token comes into play. So again, because you save the Jwt token in memory, so it cannot be leaked. Like the people can read your code, but people cannot read what you store in the code, right? So now you have the access token. You're gonna make the request with the access token. I'm gonna go to that in code in a little bit, how I implemented. And then, so when you refresh, the refresh token in cookie will actually go and refresh, like call a refresh endpoint to refresh to get the new access token. And again, assign that access token on memory. So that's the whole flow of refreshing token and then the access token. So you have a pairs of token. And I believe that is the most secured way to do these things with the token-based authentication. Now let's look into the code. Let me bump the size up a little bit. We have color schemes, font. We go 18. This is a project that I used to work at my previous job. Now, because it is my previous job, so I don't have access to the database anymore, so I cannot demo it. I can only show the code, and I walk you guys through the code, how I do it. So for this stream, we're gonna look specifically in the auth folder here under common, the permission folder, and also the security folder. Now let's look into the security folder. Actually, let's look into the app routes first. So this is the router, routing configuration. So for routing configuration, you can see I have at my top level, I have 3 config. One is for a redirect to dashboard. One is for the Authenticated Guard, auth layout component. So this is the layout component when people have been authenticated after they log in. And then I have a public layout component. So public layout component is for when people are not logged in. So to show them the register page or to show them the login page. So that's the public layout. And you can see these configuration, the path. So again, I'm gonna put this up because I feel like this is important since I'm doing this for the first time. Tình là Trọng nói là thôi anh cứ call em nhìn cô là hiểu anh nói gì liền. So to my English viewers, Tình là Trọng said, as soon as you open the code, then I understand what you're saying. It means that when I speak English, he might not be able to understand. Please, guys, I don't want you to feel that way. Let me know, stop me, so I can explain it in Vietnamese if you want. All right. All right, so go back to the auth route. So you can see right here, these guys have the same path, but this guy is put before this guy. So when the Angular router looks into the route to resolve the URL, it will actually go in here first. And if this passed the guard, then it will go into the auth layout component and it will skip the public layout component. If the guard is not passed, which means the person is trying to go to the dashboard is not authenticated, then the public layout component gets rendered, and then at the first path, it will render my security module. So that's the flow. So when the user hit my domain, Angular router actually check Authenticated Guard, if passed, then go to auth layout, and then auth layout actually have a redirect to dashboard. So it will go to the dashboard module, and then it has passed the permission guard as well. Right? If it's not passed, then it will go to public layout. So that's the first flow, and we're gonna look into the Authenticated Guard, and we're gonna look into the security module. Let's look into the security module first. It's very simple. The security module is just right now. This actually this one is a rewrite. I was rewriting over the last like couple of weeks. So it doesn't have any register or it doesn't have anything else rather than a login component. Yep. So if you look into the login component, it's very simple. You have a login screen, and then that you have an auth service. Hit login. Excuse me. You hit login, and that's pretty much it. And then if you log in successfully, I will navigate you to the dashboard. Let's look into login. So on login, I actually have I actually call the request token, and then after that I will call the after request token. So at this point, let's assume at this point the user is trying to log in, and then they input the email and password. And I'm gonna call the request token. So security client is let's go. All right. So security client is a class that was generated. We're using Swagger, so it's generated all of these for us. And on this security client, we will have a request token, and this request token actually hit the endpoint called security/token. So this one is our login endpoint. So this is the login endpoint. And then after, so the security client will call the request token, and then I have a custom pipe called after request token. We're going to look into after request token, what it does. So after request token, we're going to look into that later. If there's any errors from the server, then I'm going to switch by the error key. So maybe invalid credentials, so username, password incorrect, user account has been deactivated, or password has expired. So if any of these cases, then I return the error to this observable so that I can display the error on the login screen. So at this point, the user is not authenticated yet. And then assume they are authenticated. And then I call the after request token. And in here, in after request token, the first thing I'm going to do, I grab the refresh token from the request, from the response I got back from the login endpoint. I got the refresh token, and then I save that in local storage. I was pointing out that ideally you want to save the refresh token in cookies, but because this app was not built cookie based, because we have like a mobile application as well. So on the front end for this one, we're using local storage. Again, not ideal, is vulnerable. However, refresh token doesn't have anything. It doesn't have anything. Duy Nguyễn, sự khác nhau giữa can activate và can load là gì thế anh? So Duy Nguyễn asked what the difference between can activate and can load. I'm gonna explain just right now, real quick. If we go back to this, you have a can load and can activate. So can activate, if this passed, it will activate the auth layout component. For this guys, you know that we have lazy load. So can load for permission guard right here. If can load passed, it will actually load this bundle. If it doesn't pass, it will not load. If you put can activate here, it works the same way, but it will still load the bundle. It just does not navigate you to that route, but it will still load the bundle, and that's a waste. You might not want to do that. You want to say can load on any route config. You say load children, so that you don't load the bundle, because you want to lazy load it. If you lazy loaded it and then you don't allow people to go to it, it's a waste. All right. Okay, back to my auth service. So I was explaining how I had to use local storage for this application. And because the refresh token, we don't have any information really to that very, I guess, compromised, security compromised, or vulnerable, basically, that. Then I just save in local storage for the sake of this app. That's how the backend was written. And then after that, I will set up a refresh timer. So when with the refresh token, you want to refresh when the app refresh, basically when the user hit the refresh button, or when they go to the application, basically when they go to your URL. On the other hand, you still want to have a refresh timer, because the access token only has like 5 minutes or 15 minutes to live. After 15 minutes, if you don't refresh the token silently, if you look at the article, they will say something about silent refresh. They will talk about silent refresh. So if you don't do silent refresh, basically after every 15 minutes, you're going to force your users to log in again. So at this point, I'm going to set up the refresh token. And again, as a reminder, the after request token is after the user has called the login API and their credentials are good. So let's look at the setup refresh timer. So for the setup refresh timer, I will have the expired of the access token. Again, it is 15 minutes. Then I will minus from that 15 minutes into 14 minutes. So basically 14 minutes at 14 minutes. So at 1 minute before the access token is expired, then I want to refresh. Basically that. So basically, if they use the app for like 14 minutes, the app, my app will say, oops, it's 14 minutes. It's going to expire soon. Let's refresh. So that's what I'm doing right here. So I say the diff in milli. So the difference in milliseconds this is like 14 minutes from now. That's the from now. 14 minutes from now. And then I say a timer. So this timer after 14 minutes will emit. And if it emits, I do what? If it emits, I will call the refresh token. So basically, this is after 1 minute, actually after 14 minutes. So this is 1 minute before the access token expires. Refresh the access token. If the user keep using the app over and over and over, it's just that every time I refresh, 14 minutes after that, I will refresh that token again. So let's look into the refresh token method. So refresh token is, hey, I grab the refresh token from the local storage. So my RTOC is the refresh token key. If I don't have any refresh token in my local storage, I just reset my authentication state and I redirect the user back to login. So basically, if they don't have any token, refresh token in their local storage, then I would just redirect them back to login and stop doing whatever they're doing. Next, if they have the token, then I will try to refresh it. So again, security client refresh is a method that we call the refresh endpoint. I pass in the token, which is the refresh token, by the way. And then if I have an error, if everything's good, let's not look at this line. If everything good, then I will go back the whole after request token again to go back to go through this flow again. I'm gonna go back to this one again. But basically, if everything's good, then I go back again. I save the new token in the local storage, and then I set up a new refresh timer if everything is good. If something goes wrong, and if that error is a 401, which is unauthenticated, which means that token is wrong, something wrong with that refresh token, that refresh token is expired. So imagine somebody log into your app and then just leave it there, close the browser or whatever, and then they, like a week later or like 7 days later, they go back to your app. It depends on the duration of your refresh token. It might be expired by the time they log back in. So student gaming, hỏi là local storage service đặt set là lưu token vào local storage hand. So student gaming as local storage service .set is to save the token to local storage. Yes, it is. I just wrap local storage around a service, so I don't have to do like JSON.parse or JSON.stringify, because local storage only works with string. So I just have a local storage service to wrap around local storage. So at this point, I have a 401, which is unauthenticated. Again, the token might be expired. The token might be tampered with. Tamper with means somebody trying to modify the token. Maybe they're a user, but they're trying to modify the token into an admin. So that means it tampered with. If it's 401, mean do something if the fresh token is unauthorized. I might show like a message, something like that here. But if I got a 401 from the refresh token, I redirect them back to the login. So the flow right now is, right, they log in, set up a refresh timer, right? That's done. When the refresh timer emits, refresh the token. So that's the current flow right now. And then after refresh token, a new timer a new timer gets created. So this is the cycle right here. Actually, right here, this is the cycle. But after they, let's say, if refresh token fail with 4.1, if fail with 4.1, then it just redirect to login. So basically, kick the user out, ask them to log in again, so they have a fresh access token and a fresh refresh token. Right. So again, if it's a not 4.1, then I just reset the state and I throw an error. At this point, I don't know what happened. I really don't know what happened unless the server tells me more. Tells me more about the error, what's wrong with this token, so I can do more here. So I can like do more with more information. At this point, I don't know. I just throw the error, and then the app might just hang or whatever. So all right, so that's the refresh token, which is from the setup refresh timer, which is from right here. So this is after they actually log in successfully. So next one you have a switch map. So why do I need a switch map right here? It depends on your application. So at this point is what you have is the access token already. So at this point, you might be able to start fetching for some user information. So right here, I fetch for like some information about this account, the user account. So if they have like transaction or something like that, you don't have to have this this block. You don't. You just need to have. Excuse me. You just need to have the setup refresh timer and then do whatever you want with it. I have an auth state service. So we're gonna look into that later. So the auth service is to handle all these API calls and all this setup refresh timer. But you can see that I do not expose any like token or any current user from my auth service, and that is in my auth state service. Văn Nam Nguyễn hỏi là so Văn Nam Nguyễn asks, could you discuss about token in the server side, how to generate, what the difference between Jwt and Oauth 2? Again, so to answer that, yes and no. So what yes means, yes, I can discuss about a token in the server side, but not for this application, because this application was a part of my previous job. I quit the previous job now, so I don't have access to the latest code, or to run the application or to show you the database. Any of that, I cannot do that for this particular application. But I can talk about the token on the server side in a different app, in the backend that I wrote in Nest.js. This one, the backend for this application was written in .NET Core, but I'm not very good with .NET Core. So again, I cannot discuss that in this stream. Also, the difference between Jwt and Oauth 2 is two different strategies to do authentication. I do not, again, I'm not a security expert, so I cannot tell you what the difference is off the top of my head. That needs some more research and some more asking around. So thanks for asking, but yes and no. I'll do that in the next video, in the next stream on the token on the server side, because I do not prepare the repo here, so I cannot show quickly. Okay, back to auth state service. So my auth state service is what I use to store all the data, all the refresh token, all the actually no refresh token, the access token, and the current user information and stuff like that in my auth state service. Right. Oh, and again, because again I should have used a different application, but whatever. The token request. So the request, the login endpoint for this application returns also the user. Returns the user information as well. This user information, it doesn't have anything really. It doesn't have. So it just have a user information. it does have some information about this user, but no confidential or no security related to information. It does have some roles and roles ID and stuff like that. I'm going to talk about roles and permission in the authorization part. But again, it's a little bit different than what it would do. What it would do is I would have a different endpoint called like /me, and then I would call that endpoint when I have the access token to grab the user information. I do not return the user information for the login endpoint. So at this point, I have the user, and I just save everything to my auth stage service. So you just imagine that my auth stage service has all of the information that I need to do whatever I want to do. So now this is the whole authentication flow in the auth service. So when they refresh, when they log in, what happened? This is what happened. All right. So next, we're going to look into the auth stage service. So auth stage service, I expose the token, expose the token expiry, the current user, are they authorized or not, and stuff like that to drive the UI based on the authentication state of the user, if they log in or not. So yeah, it's very simple. It's just like these. So I can do stuff with it. Basically, the token and the token expiry, we're going to use these two in the interceptor. So we're going to look into the interceptor next, which is my auth. There we go. So as you guys know, Angular HTTP client, they have HTTP interceptor. So basically, this is to intercept the request going out to append anything you want to the request. And what we want to do here is to append the bearer token. The authorization header to the request, so that the backend can verify a request. I just forgot that this app almost learned front end through Angular. Okay. What gonna ask why we have to save refresh token? I think we just should save access token in client. Yes, you're right. we do not save refresh token. Again, as I said, for this application, because the backend is built not on cookie based, so I have to save the refresh token in local storage. If I don't save the refresh token in local storage, I don't have anything for the user when they refresh the page. I don't have anything from them to actually go grab the new access token from them for them. So ideally, you save the refresh token in cookies, and that is going to be if the backend is built based on cookie, then when you log in, the backend will return a headers with a cookie of the refresh token. Then the browser will save that refresh token. You don't have to do anything with that refresh token, right? So for this particular app, I save the refresh token because I need to. Phong Nguyễn hỏi là tại sao chỗ đó phải dùng switch map và fork join. I think Phong Nguyễn đang nói tới chỗ này đúng không? Alright. So Phong Nguyễn asked, why do I use switch map and fork join here when I have the token request from the login endpoint? Because so I switch map because I have to call something. I have to call some API. And that API call is an observable, so I have to switch map. And again, the whole thing, the after request token is a function that's return me a new pipe, a new operator basically, so that you can see right here that I pipe this dot request after request token. So if I just grab everything in here, and it drop into this, then you will see that I have to use switch map because I'm going up off a stream. So I have to switch map to another stream. And then I use fork join because I want to have the token request as well. However, you don't have to use fork join here. You can just do this, and then you can pipe a map to this one, and this one is the check account transaction, and then you can just return both of them. So this one is token request and check account transaction right here. So you can get rid of the fork join. I hope I don't have. That's these. Token request. Let's return that. And then here, because I have to return this account client check account transaction. Let me pass this one in. Then I'm gonna pipe a map. I have my check account, and then I'm gonna return a token request, and then my check account. Why does this yell? Anyway, you can do this, but you have to fix the typing. You can do this. This is the same as this one. All right. So that's the reason why I have to use switch map and fork join here. I have saw you use. Okay. It's okay. Time to answer question. So once I asked, I have saw you using timer to refresh token. Sometime other developer will only refresh token when client get 4.1. What do you think about two solutions and pros and cons about them? Great question. To be honest with you, I do not depend on when the user get the 4.1, because at that point you're gonna have to I guess handle the current request in the pipeline. So basically, when let's say they send 5 requests and the second request get 4.1, now you have to like basically stop the 3 requests that's still in the pipeline, and then send a refresh token, and then goes back to the fourth, the 3, including the one that just failed. So I have that in the Interceptor, which I go through as well. But then if I have a refresh token, a refresh token set up, then I don't have to worry about a user getting 4.1 that much, because I already refreshed them. That's the pro. The con is you might refresh too much. Let's say the user might not need to refresh that much. But again, I set a timer at 1 minute before it expires. So it's a long time too. So that's the pros and the con of the refresh token at the timer. Yep. Because prevention is better than cure. That's a good way to put it too. But yes, there's the pros and cons. Set up a timer. You have to decide when to refresh. You have to set up the code to refresh, and then you have to like set up to write the code to cancel the refresh timer if there's new refresh, if there's new token coming in. It's a lot of stuff to think about, but it just makes your Interceptor a little bit easier. Next one is Miss Windows. Where is the best place to store token and refresh token, cookies, local storage, and somewhere? So Miss Windows, at the beginning of the stream, I share an article. I share an article that is just refresh. This is this one. This is the best article that I've read on storing token in cookies or local storage or somewhere, but too long didn't read. Is for this article, we have 2 tokens: refresh token and access token. With the refresh token, we will save them in cookies. With the access token, we save them in memory, which means it's just a variable. When you refresh, that variable is gone. That's the access token. But what happened when you refresh? So when you refresh, you're going to grab the refresh token that you save, and we're going to go to the backend and ask for the new access token. And then that new access token will get assigned to a variable, and then your app will work again. That's the whole deal of refresh token and access token. Right, back to the interceptor. So now I have the let's assume that I have the access token saved in my memory in auth state service. Here in the auth interceptor, I have an add token. So add token is just set the headers on the request to have the bearer token. Next one is a function called refresh to cloned request. So this is what Min just said. So if I have, let's just go over when I call this function, then we will go back to this function. And then I have the new token to clone request right here. So that new token to clone request basically just have the token in the auth state service, and then I merge map it over to the new request with the token added to the headers. So at this point, I have the new request, and then it just return that new request with the header. So that's the new token to clone request. All right, this is the intercept. Let's start. Let's start from top to beginning. Intercept. First of all, if this interceptor gets invoked, I just say, hey, I have some allowed URL. Allowed URL means this list right here. This is the list of endpoints that I don't want to do anything to it. So basically, if I have a refresh request, the refresh request going out, I don't need the access token because this is actually going to grab my access token for me. So I don't really want to try to append the access token to the refresh endpoint. Also for the access, sometimes the Angular side will actually make requests to the access, your access folder, and it will actually go through your interceptor. So I prevent that as well. So if I have if the URL of the request coming in right here, request.url has those endpoints, then I just say, hey, don't do anything, just go. I don't care about your request if you're in the allowed list. This one I have a flag called has retried. So here you can have a number of retries, or you can just say I retry once. So this is I retried once. If it still fails after I retry, I go back to login. I don't care anymore. So that's the has retried false. So here you can have like a number like retry count. You can have like a retry count. It'd be like 5 times or something like that. It's up to you. So the first thing is I combine latest the tokens and the token expiry. So at over here is me trying to grab the current token and the current token expiry. Oh, and this token is the access token again. And then I take one. So I just need the latest. I don't care about the next one. I just need the latest at this point. Then I have the token, and then I have the expiry. If there's no token, I say no token, just go. If you don't have token, go. I don't care. Then I will handle the request, the fail request, because at this point, if there's no token and then the request goes out, then the request might come back as a 401 because it's not authenticated. Then I will handle it somewhere else. At this point, if you don't have the token, just go. I don't care. All right, so the next one is here. I clone the request. This one is say, hey, I want to add the token because I have the token now. I want to add a token to my request. So now I have the clone request with the token. Next, I have defer. So defer is a mechanism you want to use when you have a retry when. So I'm going to explain defer when I go through what inside of the defer. right? The first thing I do in the defer is I check if the token has already expired. If it is expired, I will refresh the token first, right? I will refresh the token first, and then I will go back to the current request. So let's look into the refresh to clone request. So refresh to clone request is concat the refresh token, and then I have a new token to clone request. So this request right here is the current request going out. So that's my current request going out. The refresh token is the refresh token endpoint or API call. Concat means, hey, go do this first. And by do this, it will go here and it will go through refresh token and go through all the setup, refresh timer, all the stuff that we do in auth service. And then because it does all the stuff that we do in auth service, and after request token, I will have my new access token saved in auth state. Right? So at this point, I have all the new stuff. Again, if everything's success, all the new stuff, new refresh token, new access token. And then I say, hey, now use the new token and add the new token to the request header of the current request going out. So let's imagine you call a product, and this one, the token is expired. Then I will refresh the token for you with this. After that, I will grab the new token with this, and then I will recall the product with the new token. So that's what these two functions does. So this the whole flow. All right. So that's when the access token expired right here. If it expired, if it's not expired, so if it gets here, if the code can get to line 80, it means the token is good and the token has not been expired. Then I would just say, all right, go ahead, call the request, make the request. And then the request might success or might fail. If it fail, then it will have an error. And then you can use retry when. Retry when will take in the error observable, and you can do something with that error observable. So basically, if now let's say my request goes out and it failed, it might fail because of something I don't know. Then I say, hey, you failed. Okay. I know at this point my token and my expire is good. I don't know why you fail, but okay, you fail. So at this point you fail, right? I would check if the error is 401 again. If, okay, we might send a bad token. So we get back a 401 from the server. If it is a 401 and I have not retried, so at this point I have not retried yet, okay, all right, I'll set the retry to true. So I retry once, only once. And then I call the refresh clone to request again. So basically I try to refresh and then resend the token again with the new token because clearly the server said something wrong with my token. So I just, okay, I'm going to retry once for you. And then if after that you still fail, I'm done. I just return you an error. I don't care. At this point, I'm done. At this point, I'm done. I don't refresh anymore. So I refresh once. So that's the whole retry when. And when you when I call retry when. Retry when will actually go back to the defer, and we'll go back to here. So it just basically is my way to do retry when, because I want when this code in here retry new value, because things might get passed by reference in JavaScript. So I just do defer to make sure that these are new value in here. Right, so that's the whole refresh thing. Then we have more. we have more catch error down here. So again, after I refresh, but you still get 401. You still get 401. Okay. I'm gonna lock you out. I don't care anymore. I lock you out, and then I redirect you to login. So at this point, the user, we have tried everything that we could. We tried to refresh the token for them. We tried to resend the request for them, but they still fail. That means their account might have been deactivated, like, right? They might quit their job, but they're still trying to access the application. So at this point, something happened to their account that we need more investigation. But as far as the front end cares, log them out and redirect them to login. So at this point, right? If they are not authorized, which means they try to access a page that they do not have permission to, redirect them to not authorized. So that's the whole flow. If it's none of these, then just throw the error, and then I'm gonna handle the error on the front end. So maybe show like a notification, something went wrong or something like that. So that's the whole interceptor. So again, to recap, interceptor, grab the new token. Grab the access token and the token expired to handle refresh, also to handle retry, and to handle adding the token to the authorization header. So that's the two main part of the interceptor. Next one is we have the guard. The guard, where's the guard? Right here. So we have the authenticated guard. It's very simple. Just say, hey, it's authorized. And is authorized is just if they have token or not. So that's the authenticated guard. So if, just to remind, you go back here, authenticated guard. And so at this point, when they refresh, I'm gonna check, hey, do you have token or not? If they do, then they authenticated, then they go in here. So that's the whole authentication flow. So that's just the part of login, token, and stuff like that. There's nothing related to permission yet. All right, so we're gonna take about 2 minute break, 2-3 minutes break. See if I have any questions. What do you guys think? Any question? Any part that you want me to explain again? Van Nam Nguyen asks, really curious why you're typing so fastly. Well, I type fast, but I type wrong all the time. So there you go. So it looks like there's no more question. I'm gonna drink some water. Then we're gonna go back to permission. So permission is another whole beast, and permission authorization is actually very actually depends on the backend implementation a lot. So I'm just gonna show what we have here. Do not take this for good practice or for general practice, because it's not. It really depends on the backend. But there's also an article about permission. So it's beeswax. I'm going to share this in the chat. Our backend based on this, because we actually have account, we have user, we have role, and then we want to add permission to it. Excuse me. To quickly go over this. So for permission, we have create, read, update, and delete. So basically the GRUD, so basically that. So we're gonna assign the read to the value 1, the create to value 2, the update to value 4, the delete to value 8. So why you think like there's 1, 2, 4, 8 here? These are binary. These are binary. So if you look into if you know binary number, you know 1 is 1, you know 2 is 10, you know 4 is 100, and you know 8 is 1000. So if you and to write it in a little bit more accurate, so it's this way. So 0 0 and then 0, right? And then because it's binary, so it's 1 0, so it's just on or off, true or false. So because we use binary for this permission, it's easy to combine those. So let's say what if I have a user that can create and can delete, but they cannot update. It's weird, but it might happen, right? So I need 0010 and 1000. So imagine if you do this with like can read, can create, can update, can delete, can read and create, can read and update, can read and delete. So for 4 operation create, read, update, delete, you will have 15 flags for all of the combination. So with the binary, you can do very quick things like this. So let's say I want to have a read or update. I want read or update. So it's going to be 1 or update of n 010065. That doesn't look right. I'm going to show you the code because I forgot to. It's been a while. So I'm going to show you the code, but it's going to make sense later. It's going to make sense when I show you the code for why we use this. All right, Duy Nguyễn hỏi là nếu mà mình đang ở dashboard xong refresh page thì có pass được cái permission không? Trong trường hợp không lưu thông tin trong storage mà phải gọi API để lấy permission. So Duy Nguyễn asks if we on the dashboard and then we refresh the page, does the user get past the permission guard in the case we don't save that information, the user information, in local storage, and we fetch the user on refresh? Yes, we can. Why we can? Because the guard itself can return observable. So in the guard, you can actually set up your guard to return an observable to wait on some certain operations. So yes, you can do that. Which we're gonna go through we're gonna go over the permission guard to see closer. Right. Min asked, what happened if I have async tasks in app component and a guard in the route? All of them will run async, right? Yes, all of them will run async. Yes, all of them will run async. But you can set up your async task in a way that it happened in a stream. So maybe some flag before that for them to run, which again I can show you later too. All right, so let's just go over one question because I can show the app component real quick. So app component, as Min said, right? App component will run because it's the top level component. So in my ng on init, I just set up translation. You don't have to worry about this. Set up route title listener. Don't have to worry about this, right? And then what happened? What happened is when the user refresh or in my ng on init of my app component, I say retrieve token on page load. So what this does, it actually call the refresh token, and that's it, right? It will call the refresh token. The refresh token will try to grab the token in local storage. We'll go through all that flow again, go through all the after request token to save the new token and new access token back into local storage again. So that's what happened when the user refreshed. So this run right here. And then what's next? And then you know that in the retrieve token on page load, when I refresh the token, I set up my auth state service. So it's here, I set up my auth state, right? And assume that there's success. Nothing wrong, nothing goes wrong. The user got a new token. Then my auth state is populated with the right data. And if you remember, on my auth state service, there's an is authorized. And is authorized is actually just if they have token or not. And yes, they will have token because I'm waiting. So this line right here, this 34, this line 34 is actually waiting for this line to set up the auth state. And then if I'm authorized, so at this point I have the access token already, and my guard might have passed all as well, right? My guard have already passed. Actually, my guard have already passed the authenticated guard because at this point I have the token, so it passed the authenticated guard. And then I have the token, I subscribe, and I load the permission. So the load permission will happen after I refresh the token. Then load permission will do something else too. Load permission also set the permission state. So you see the pattern here. I have a service and then have a state service for that particular feature. So permission, I have permission service and then permission state service. We're gonna go in here in a little bit more. I'm gonna go back to app component for a little bit. So at this point, right, I set up permission state. I set up permission state, and then we're gonna go over the permission guard real quick. Inside permission guard, I use the permission state. So if you look into has permission, I call an observable on the permission state service. So this observable will have to wait for something happening in my state service to actually run. So the permission guard will wait for this, right? So as you say, if you have async task, which I do, it will happen at the same time, but they can wait on each other the way that you set up them. All right, so this way I set up them, the actually permission guard will wait for the load permission to finish setting up all the permission state before it actually runs its check. So I hope that answered the question. All right. So back to, now we're back to all the permission stuff. Let's look back into the app route. So you see my route configuration, something might not be different than yours, and that is the data right here. So the permission-based authorization in this application is done via the data on the route. So when you set up a route, you can set up the permission to that route. And what permission needs is a permission name and what permission required to go to this route. So all the route, most of the routes have the read. So basically they require you to have at least the read permission of the dashboard managed to go to the dashboard module. So what I meant by these two guys, I'm gonna write something real quick because again I don't have the back end, so I cannot show the data. So when the user actually can remove that permission service. So for permission, so again, as you can see that I fetched the permission on app refresh as well in the app component. So when the app first start, the permission will be loaded for that user because I waited for that user to be authorized. So I only when the user is authorized, I load the permissions. And in here, I actually check if they authorize, then I call the endpoint. If not, then I just reset the state, right? I reset the state, and the state, the permission default is an empty array. It's going to be an empty array. So I reset the permission back to an empty array if they're not authorized, so that my app doesn't break. Okay. To go off of if the permission array is empty, all of my check will actually fail or false, return false, so that when the app will just assume if you don't have any permissions, then you don't have permission, basically that. All right. So for permission client, so in here again, permission client is a generated class to call the permission endpoint. As I say, retrieve permission for user. I don't pass in anything here because so here this retrieve permission will go through the authenticated the authenticate interceptor. So it will have the access token of the current user append to the headers. So then the backend knows, oh, Chow requests for his permissions. Then the backend is going to go grab my permissions and return me. So I don't have to pass in anything here. Then this return, we're going to go to that. So Duy hỏi là vậy làm sao để truyền permission vào permission guard? Duy asked, then how can we pass the permission to the permission guard to do the check? We're going to go through that. So this returns me an array of effective permission view model. We're going to look into that to see what the kind of model, what kind of data that we're working with. So here I have the permission ID, and then I have the activity. Actually, these two are the two that I need. What is the permission ID? So permission ID is actually permission name. So if you see right here on my file explorer, I have a permission names TypeScript. This one is generated by a CLI that I wrote. So on the back end, we have a table called permissions, and this table we have permission ID. The back end exposes all of the permissions available in the application. I don't care if that permission is being used or not. As long as it's in the database, it will be exposed by the backend. And you can see this pattern here. So I have accounts.manage, accounts.manage.api key. This means that accounts.manage is a permission particular to the account section of the application. So account manage can be create, read, update, or delete. So if I have accounts manage permission, I can read the accounts page, basically that. Or if I do have a create permission for accounts manage, or let's put into this. So if I have accounts manage of, I guess 15, let's assume I have that. If I have accounts manage permission and the number is 15, right? The number is 15. This means that I have all the permission I need to do this, right? To work with the account. So I can read the accounts page, I can create new account, I can update existing account, or I can delete account. So that the accounts manage permission. And you can see this right here with the API key. So API key is a little bit like fine-grained, a little bit more detail, that if I have this, then I can update the API key on the account. So we provide API key to to clients so they can call our backend. So this is the API key. So you can go in here and see all of the permissions that we have in the application. And these will correspond to the permission ID, right? So when we call a permission, when we call the permission endpoint, the permission endpoint will return an array of this. To simplify, it will return basically an array. Okay, this is a big file. You see the 40,000 lines. My website choke. I'm gonna bring this somewhere else. I'm gonna put this over to this. All right. So it return an effective permission view model array, which is something like this. So for a permission, it will give me the permission ID of, let's say, accounts manage. And then my activity will be like 15. So 15 means fulcrum. This is 1 plus 2 plus 4 plus 8. That's 15. And I have permission ID of like dashboard manage activity 1. This is just read. Then maybe I have permission ID of users managed, and then activity be 0, which means I cannot do anything with user managed. Or sometimes in this case we don't really return activity 0. If an activity is 0 for a permission, we just do not return it. We just don't return it. So now you can see that this is the chef data, the data that this endpoint return. Then what I do with this data is I call the set permissions in here. And let's look into the permission state, right? And let's look into I'm going to copy this over to the permission state. And let's look into the has permission. So has permissions, you saw earlier that we call has permission in the permission guard. And has permission return what? It's actually return the current permissions, and current permissions is the permissions that we set. So as I said, the guard actually has to wait for this to be set before it runs. So it always guaranteed to have permissions before it run the permission guard, right? So the first thing is I'm saying, all right, has permission. If I pass in an undefined permission and an undefined privilege, I just return true. So hey, you say you want permission, but you don't pass me any permission. So I just say, nah, the user can see it because you don't pass in any permission. All right, here I'm gonna explain a little bit about privilege and the activity. So the privilege only has 4 values: 1 for read, 2 for create, 4 for update, and 8 for delete. And of course, it depends on your application. If your application needs more than read, create, update, and delete, sometimes it's simple as you want something called maybe able to export or maybe able to import, right? In our case, in this application, export is the same as read. So, and import is the same as create or update. It depends. But if you need an additional privilege, you can have more than just 4, but you have to go in binary number. So this one, just do 8 times 2. It's actually 16. So in binary is this, right? That, and that. So you see the pattern here. If you have more, you can just do more, like maybe even go up to 32 bits. But if your application needs this much, then maybe rolling your old permissions might not be sufficient. You might reach out to a third-party libraries or like Auth0 to handle the permission for you, or Keycloak. So a third party is a Keycloak or Auth0, right? Or something else. I don't know. Right? If you have like a lot of different privilege to check for, but in this case, I only have 1, 2, 4, 8, so I can manage it. All right. So we pass this. Then we go to it. We go to this. So I'm going to check the current permission. Let's say, all right, current permission. I have my permissions. I want to return an observable Boolean. So from an array of effective permission view model, I want to return a Boolean. So I call map. So on these permissions, I have a sum. So to remind you, this permission array is the permissions of the current user. So it's all the permissions that this user has. So that's the permission array. Then I call sum. So as soon as there is one permission of the user that passes these, then they're good. I don't have to check all the permissions. I only have to check one. So at least I find one that passes the condition, then they're good. I return. That's it. So that's what sum means. There's every, right? Every is the the opposite of sum. Every check for all, sum only check for one. So now the permission, so for sum, I have the each permission, right? Now I check each permission. I check if the permission ID is equals to the permission to check. So at this point, I'm checking if accounts.manage is equal to accounts.manage. Right? If they do, then I also check. Now I check the privilege. So here I'm checking. So I say for accounts manage, I have 15. So 15, and then the privilege. So basically, the permission is you need to have the create privilege. So basically, I pass in. So if I pass in account dot manage, and then I pass in to create, you need to have at least create permission to do this. Then my privilege is 2, so I do 15 and 2, and all of these we have to equal 2. So this is some binary stuff in here, and I'm gonna copy this over to Chrome. So as you see, 15 is my 1, 2, 4, 8, right? That's my permission. That's my user permission. I'm going to do my user permission equals 1, 2, 4, 8. That's my user permission. Now I need the page permission. The page permission only 2, because this page only needs the create. Right. Now what I do is you do 15 and 2. This will return the 2 because now let's just write the 15 and 2. 15 is 1, 1, 1, 1. That's 15. If I do this correctly, I forgot. Parse 2. Yeah, right there. so if the binary in binary 15 is 1, 1, 1, 1. So 1, 1, 1, 1. And we know 2 is 0, 0, 1, 0, right? But if you the n this operator right here, this operator, actually let me my bad. So sorry guys. This operator is called a bitwise AND operator. You can actually look it up, bitwise AND, and it's right here. Look up in the MDN. So bitwise AND. So the AND will actually compare the two binary, and if both binary at the same like position is true, then it is true. So let's think of 2 is 1 and false is 0. So let's go through. So 1 and 0. So true and false. True and false would mean false. So that's 0, right? True and false. Oh, true and false is 0. And then now we have 1 and 1. So true and true is true. So that's true. And then we have 1 and 0. True and false is actually 0. So if we compare, if we use the bitwise ANDs with the 15 and the 2, you will get the 2, because that's the I guess, I don't know, cái giống nhau, cái giao nhau giữa 1111 và 000010. I just said that this is the intersection, right? The intersection between the 15 in binary and the 2 in binary. So now you can return 0010. And this is actually why we use binary, because we have true and false in terms of 1 and 0. It only has 2 values. So you can do all kinds of this. So let's assume that you have another one. So you have now all permission for export and import. You can just do that without having to have 15 or 32 or 33 different Boolean flags to do your stuff, right? Now go back to the app. So at this point, so now we just go over the 15, the bitwise ANDs, and the 2. This will return 2. So to check if they have that permission, if they have that correct permission, we will say take their permission and the passed in permission, the required permission. If that equals to the required permission, then yes, they have that permission. So again, I'm gonna show one more thing. Now, let's assume I have user B permission, and this user will not have the create. So they only have read, update, and delete. So 1, 4, and 8. So they have 13, right? 13 looks big, but when you do 13 and 2, it will return 0 because there is no 2 in 13 in terms of binary, right? Even though you say 13 is big, but when you do binary bitwise n with the 2 with the create, it will return 0. And this is true because this user permission doesn't have the create required permission that we need. So they don't have permission to access the page that require the create. Right, so that's the whole binary thing. Right. So again, the activity, you have a big number of activity doesn't mean that you have enough permission. All right, so at this point, I check the permission. If it passed or if it fails, the permission check, and then I take 1. The reason why I take 1, because the guard, you have to, the stream, if you return an observable in your guard, the stream has to complete, or else the guard won't run. So I have to take 1 to complete the stream. So this has permission, has the take 1 already. So it will be completed. It will be run when the current permission has data. Right, that's my has permission. Right. Now let's go back to the route. Now we know the permission guard calls the has permission, and we know how the has permission is doing the check. So let's go back to the routes. So now on this route, I have a can load of permission guard and assume. And how does this guard know about this information? So if you look into the guard has access to the route information, and again, it has the data, right? So can activate has the activated route snapshot. So this is the route that you want to go to. So basically, in terms of the guard, if you look back to the route configuration, this is actually that next activated route snapshot that the router will pass to your guard in the can activate. So it will pass all of this information for you. So on that, you have the data, right? And then you have the permission. Then can activate child, it's the same thing. You have the activated route snapshot, the same thing. If the route has data, or the parent of that route has the permission data, then we do it. Then we use it. Now the can load is what we're using right here. So can load is a little bit different. It will give you the route instead of the activated route snapshot. But on the route, you have the same thing. You have the route.data, the permission as well. So as soon as you have the route or you have the activated route snapshot, basically everything that the permission guard can provide you. So you can put data, this data right here, on your route configuration to pass in more information. If your application doesn't have permission based and you have role based, you can actually put roles in here. So basically, admin, right, or manager. You can do this, and then you do the same thing in your permission guard. But instead of checking permission, you will check the roles. Permission guard. Yep. Right now, I just returned the has permission, and has permission. Just call the has permission on the state service to actually check for permission. So at this point, I would say, does this user have permission? If they have, if they don't have permission, then I want to redirect them. I have some special case here. You don't have to worry about this. I have some special case. for this particular application. But basically, I just want to redirect them to not authorized. So you have a not authorized page, which is 403. Then you have a not authenticated page, which is 401. So that's all the permission guard. That's all. That's it. Because you set up this already. Then you set up your state service. So your guard just looks like that. Now, there's one last thing that I want to go over, which is the directives. Oh, let me show the enum first. So the privilege enum, so you can see that my 1248, right? And then I have the all 15 just for helper. So that. So because I want to all, because if I want to do permission.all, then I can do that. So this route require all permissions, basically that. You don't have to have it, but it depends. Right now, next to the directive. So a lot of people, when I first work on the permission stuff for this application, I don't have the permission directive. I use ngif. So I use ngif a lot, and then I would have something called the has permission, blah blah blah, blah blah. It is a mess, and it keeps repeating over and over. So I'm like, crap, I'm gonna create a permission directive, and that's what I did. So the permission directive is exactly like an ngif. So instead of like ngif, I can do permission, right? And what I tag in exactly like this. So I pass in, let's say on the template I pass in accounts.manage.api key, and this is actually an input, right? A type of text, and then a form control name of API key, and then I have that, right? So this is a API key, and of course I need at least update. I need update, so I need 4. I need update. I need 4. So this says if the current user have the update permission of the API key on accounts manage, then show this input. If not, don't show it. So it's exactly like ngif, right? So it's just permissions. And also I tag in a Boolean, of course. So let's say if there's external or additional condition that I want to check for, then I can put in here. It defaults to true, by the way. So that Boolean right there. So right here, I have if value. If I don't pass in anything, then yes, you have permission, right? If you don't pass in anything, right? Now, if you pass in something, then I will destructure it. So this is my permission. This is my privilege. So let's just bring this. Let's just bring this down here so you can see right there. So permission is this guy. The privilege is this guy. And then if you don't pass in condition, like additional condition right here, additional condition, something else, then I default it to true. Then again, what I do, I just call this the has permission again with the permission and the privilege right here. That's it. So that's my permission directive. It's super easy. And then my is condition pass is assigned to the condition. Now I have has permission and is condition passed. I just do update view. So if these are both true, which means I have permission, and also any condition that I pass in also true, then I will just create the view ref, which is whatever ngif does. This is exactly like ngif. And then I also support for the else. So you can pass in like else, no permission, and then you can do ng template, no permission, ng template. Right? You can do this. So that's my permission permission directive. Super easy to test too if you want to look into the test. that. I'm going to rip out some stuff here and push into a repo, and then I will publish it so you guys can have something to look into. But yeah, right here is what I do. I test the directive, and that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it, to be honest. So if I don't have any place that use this yet in the code. Oh, right here. So right here, right? If they have the read permission of schedule manage, then allow them to go to, then show the link for them to go to account manage. Yep, and that's it. That's authentication and authorization in this application. that's all. It's a lot. I mean, I talked for like an hour and a half just to go through the authentication and authorization. Any question? We're gonna take a 2-minute break. We might break. We might stop the stream in like half an hour. So any question at all about authentication and authorization for this app? I know like without seeing the backend implementation, it's kind of hard to visualize everything. But I just hope that I can show you guys something today. Yeah, you learned something today. I hope. Maybe you learn this, or maybe you learn the permission state service. I don't know. It depends, right? Right. So those two are done. And then take a couple of minutes break, and then we go over to the TNC Scully. Phong Nguyễn asked, nhanh quá, anh có câu để xem lại không anh? Phong Nguyễn asked, it's kind of fast. Do you have code to review later? The answer is yes. It might not be the whole repo, because I might not be able to, but the stuff that I show, I will put into a repo and I push it on GitHub, and I will publish it. So you will have something to watch. I mean to see, to read. Minh hỏi là topic lần tới là OAuth hả anh? And Minh asked, the next topic is going to be OAuth. I say, I don't know. Again, I don't know a lot about security, so I'm not sure if I can talk about OAuth. But I might ask people. I might ask people too. Right? I might ask guest speakers to come on and talk about OAuth. I guess OAuth, you mean like Google sign in, GitHub sign in, and Facebook sign in and stuff like that. If that's the case, then yes, I might be able to go over some implementation, but I cannot talk about it like in depth, like this one. I don't know enough. All right, so let's go to TNC Scully. All right. So for people who don't know, I have a personal blog. Is narc.me. So NARTC is actually C-train backwards. So narc.me is my personal blog. This one is built with Angular and Scully, which is this repo right here. And this repo is on GitHub at github.com/TNC-Scully. So that's the repo for TNC Scully, and this is the blog. Right, and I just want to show up something. go to Lighthouse, generate report. If you build your block with Scully, you will get something like this. That. Because I'm streaming, so it might affect performance a little bit. But usually I get 100 across, except for SEO. I'm not good at SEO at all. So I'm going to talk over Scully a little bit. So let's walk over Scully, the blog. I have dark theme, light theme. I have about me, so some route here. I have some tag page here. So then I have the actual blog page with code block, with markdown and stuff like that. All right, and comment. And of course, you can go to these as well. Yeah. All right. Back to the code. So again, this is Scully application. So right here in my package.json, I have some Scully. Oh, I should just put scully.io. This is the homepage of Scully. You can go through the documentation to get started really quickly. Yeah, it will set up the. Actually, you have to have an Angular application, and then you run that ng add Scully. It will set up your application, your Angular application, into a Scully application with these dependencies. Next, it will have a Scully config file. So this file will tell Scully what to do. Here is what you set up some plugins. So basically for the routes, so for my block route, I want to pre-render the block route, right? So I just say, hey, for this route, look into the folder block. So if you look into the folder block right here, you will see that I have all the markdown files. So Scully will look into here and will find these files, and then it will run its own thing to read these markdown file and turn that into HTML page for me. So if you look into my disk, look into the static and the block, so you see that, right? It will return me the index HTML from this. Right, so that's the basic of Scully. Now let's go into the code. Really easy. So first thing first, of course, the routing configuration. So for routing, I have, if you go to narc.me, you just load the home page. The block will load the block page, the block module. The tag will load the tag module, and then I have two not file component. So not file component is just basically that. That's my not file. Alright, Minh hỏi là em có một câu không liên quan mấy file JS của service interface enum hay view model sẽ được load khi nào? So Minh asked, I have a question. I have an unrelated question. So when do the JS files of the service, of the interface, of the enums, or the view models will be loaded? Okay, they will be loaded in the files that you import into. And as soon as that file is loaded, they will be loaded. So when like Webpack, I'm talking about Webpack right here. So Webpack bundles all of your files. It will put all the imports of one file on the top. And then, you know, JavaScript will just go from top to bottom. Just go through top to bottom. Let's say you hit the module, and then the module have the class, service class imported. It will go ahead and load that service the service class that you export. So this is why we have, or Angular has the provided in root. So let's assume I have my app module here, and app module will always be loaded first because it gets referenced here in the main, and the main will be read first all the time, right? So with that information, you know that app module will always load. So before, I think before Angular 5 or Angular 6, before the provided in. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, you know the provided the injectable provided in root right here. So before we have this, if we want to provide some service at the top level, we have to put that service inside of the provider array of the app module. So let's say our service here, right? And this requires to import the R service, right? And because app module is always loaded, so the R service will always be loaded, right? Now with the provided in root, we don't have to import R service anymore. So R service technically is not loaded along with app module. Let's see if I have any service in here. Service, yep, right there. So technically, this meta service is not exported anywhere yet. It's not exported in the app module. So as soon as we import or we inject the meta service somewhere, like in my home component, then the meta service will be loaded. So assume that this home component is lazy loaded way down the road, and meta service is only used in here. So meta service is also lazy loaded along with the home module. So that's the whole reason of the provided in root. So they provide you a way to lazy load service. That's one thing. Another thing is when you lazy load your module like this one, we don't import home module in the app module anymore, because if that's the case, if we import home module here, then it defeats the purpose of lazy load, because it will be loaded along with app module, right? So when we lazy load things, we do not import, we do not put the module in the imports array because we lazy load. So that's the main. I hope that answered your questions. All right, go back to Scully. So very standard Java Angular. So in my app module, it will have the Scully lib module. So this one is added to you by the ng add Scully schematics, so you don't have to worry about it. Here we go. So Minh hỏi câu kế tiếp là nếu mà em import module A vào nhiều module khác thì nó bị tăng bundle size, hay là thằng Webpack nó chỉ load module A một lần rồi lần tới module nào dùng thì chỉ cần link tới thôi. So Minh has a follow-up question. So if I import module A into many different modules, then it will increase the bundle size. Or the Webpack only loads module A once. Then when the other modules need module A, Webpack will give that module A to that module. So to answer this question, it's actually only loads once. Assuming, I'm gonna write right here. So assume you have Angular has form module, so form module, correct? And then you have a lazy load A module and then lazy load B module. Let's say you want to use forms module in A module. So in A, you will have this, but in B, you do not. But when you lazy load, so at this point, Webpack or Angular CLI knows that only lazy load A module needs the forms module. So it will grab the bundle size of the forms module included inside of the A module. So now you will see like lazy load a.chunk with like, let's say 500 kilobyte, and then lazy load b.chunk is like 100 kilobytes. So this one is 100 plus 400 kilobyte of forms module. Let's assume, right? So now this is the case. And then you ask, now if I want to use forms module inside of lazy load B module, then you have to do this, right? Right? Then now you have to do this. But now Webpack or Angular CLI knows, oh, this dude needs forms module in 2 places. So now we're going to Webpack will separate the forms module into a common chunk. This is form module, and assuming this is 400 kilobyte, then it will take off the forms module from the A and from the B. It will load a common chunk for you, so it only loads once. All right, I hope that answers the question again. Great questions, though. Great questions. Thank you. All right, so we're back to ScullyLib module. And then I have a service worker. I have service worker because I have like if I push new stuff to the if I deploy new stuff to the block, then yes, I need the service worker. I'm going to show you where I use the service worker. I'm going to go through this real quick. So look into the home. So the home page is this. The home page will have this avatar space, and they have a block list. So if you look into the home, they have about, I have the block list, and then I have a list of components. So if you look into the component HTML, you will see that this is my left side. So that's my left. So this is one right here. So I have my theme toggler. So this is my theme toggler, right? Then I have my avatar. Then I have my info. I have my navigation. So this is my navigation. I have my socials right here. This is my social account. And then I have copyright, which is these guys right here. So that's my copyright. And then on the right-hand side, I have my router outlet. So right here, I have my router outlet. So I render my about right here. So you can see that the aside class, the aside element is still there under the block list, and the about me change. So that's my router outlet. So let's look into the avatar. So this is where I'm using that service worker right here. So I wish I could make something. Let's change something real quick. Let's do my text type, blah, 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 Next.js. Let's add Angular Vietnam in my copyright. Build with already reserved. So let's do Angular Vietnam. Let's do that. And I'm gonna push add Angular Vietnam to copyright. Yeah. So Phong Nguyễn hỏi là anh nói về chỗ chuyển theme được không? Phong Nguyễn asks, can I talk about? Can you talk about the theme toggling? Yes, I will talk about it, and then I think that's the last thing that we'll talk about because the stream is like 2 hours. All right, now I'm pushed. I have my block hooked up to Netlify. So as soon as I pushed, it will start building, and then if I go to my block right here, I have my block still running right here. You don't see the Angular Vietnam. Right now it's building. I'm gonna let it build for a little bit. Then I'll go back to my code, back to the avatar component. So here I'm just saying, hey, if there's service worker enabled, then I'm gonna do all this thing. So what I'm doing is I say, hey, fref, application ref is the top level of your application, even on top of the app component. So application ref is actually what running all the chain detection. So we're going to talk about like application ref in like future stream when we get into more Angular stuff. But right here, just say, hey, application ref. So basically application, when you're stable, let me know. So when the app is stable, when it loads all the stuff that it needs to load. And then I have the interval of every 5 minutes. And so it's just an interval right here, say every 5 minutes. And then I have a stream called every 5 minutes after app is stable. So I concat the app is stable. So app is stable has to run first, and then every 5 minutes. So let's think if app is stable, is not stable until 6 minutes, then this will not run. So that's the main thing, right? And then I subscribe to the stream right here. So basically the stream will run app is stable, and then every 5 minutes. It will emit every 5 minutes. Of course, I have to destroy it. And then every 5 minutes, I will check for update, right? This will call check for update. That's it. I will call check for update. And check for update internally will actually emit something through the available observable right here. So I have has update. I listen for the available. Listen for the available right here, and then map to true. So basically, if I have available stuff, it's just true. If I have available, if I have new stuff available, then it's true. Then it has update. And start with false. So by default, it will not have update. Then as soon as I have update based on this, I map it to true. And then I subscribe to it using the async pipe, right? And then I have these classes on my VM has update. So basically, I have a class show on my avatar if has update is true, and then I have cursor pointer if has update is true. And then on click, I will reload the page. So if I have update, if I have new update, I want to reload the page. So now let's go back to the blog. It has been published. So the blog has been deployed. If you look into the blog, you will see that nothing new yet, right? But if we wait a little bit, again, wait for 5 minutes maybe, then you will see that my, actually, let's just go to a new page, I hope, right? You see, I go to north.me. I don't have the Angular Vietnam yet. So when I go to north.me, because I said I have service worker, so service worker will load the cache version of my blog. And then this is the service update service. It say, hey, I have the new version now, right? Because Netlify has my new version. The service worker, while it's load the cache version for me, will actually reach out to Netlify to grab the new version, and then it compares the new version and my old version, my current version that is showing. Then if it's different, then it has update. So this is basically check for update does. If I have a new update, I will have that. Right now, I can just click on here to refresh, and now I have the Angular Vietnam. So now my blog has a live refresh when I deploy a new version using the service worker. So that's what I want to point out. All right, now I'm going to talk about the theme toggling a little bit. So for theme toggling to work, you have to set up a little bit of a variable. So if you look into my code, and if you look into the styles, there's a custom Tailwind base. If you look into that, you will see I have my root. This root right here is the selector on the HTML root. So it's on top level. And then on theme dark, then I have these values. On theme light, I have the same value. I mean, the same variables, but with different values, right? I have these classes, theme dark and theme light, right? And I believe on my body, on my share service, right? Theme service. So on theme service, I have basically a theme service, right? Update right here. So when I change the theme, I will actually change the class on the document body. So if you look into the document body right here, so you see that I'm at theme dark, but when you toggle, it goes to theme light, and it's on the body, and on the, because I set up all the styling right here on the different colors right here, it would just take over, because my application, look back into the styles, my application everywhere I use color and stuff based on the theme. I will use the variable, and I will read that background color or the text color from these variable right here. So when when I have the theme light, my background color is white, so that's my background color. If it changed back to dark, my background color is now this dark color. So now my body will have that that color. So that's the whole theme toggling stuff. And by the way, use the renderer. Right here. Actually, I use the renderer factory because Scully does allow you to run the Angular application without JavaScript. So that's why I need the renderer factory. But you can just have the renderer. So you can just do renderer 2. That you can just do that, right, without a factory. And use the renderer to add class to the document body with the correct class, dark or light. It depends. And that is the theme toggler. All right, I think that's it. We don't have time for miscellaneous stuff, but I think that's a lot of information for today's stream. So I'm gonna stop sharing. Then we're gonna have some last minute questions. So An Phạm hỏi là khi nào anh rảnh anh làm tiếp cái Angular 100 days được nha. So An Phạm asks, when you have more free time, please continue working on the Angular 100 days. Yes, that's still on my plan, but I've just got a new job, not just like 5 weeks ago, a month ago. So I'm still trying to get used to the new job, so I don't have a lot of free time. And I'm also expecting a new baby, so I'm gonna be a dad. So, that too. So of course, when I have more free time, then I'll continue doing that. Thank you. All right. If there is no more questions, then I'm going to stop the stream and see you in the next one.